At 54, Mark lost everything, his business gone, his home foreclosed, his marriage over. In just 6 months, his entire world unraveled. People whispered behind his back. Some offered pity, most offered distance, and quietly, the world moved on without him. But Mark didn't. He faced the silence. He felt the weight, and then he got up. No investors, no lifelines, just grit, coffee, and a second-hand laptop. He didn't rebuild the same life. He built a new one rooted not in titles or trophies, but in purpose. This isn't a story of success. It's the story of what's left when success is stripped away, and why that might be the beginning, not the end. Mark Dawson had done everything right. He built a modest printing business from scratch in his 30s. Married his college sweetheart. No kids, just 2 dogs they called their furry children. A quiet neighborhood, a 2-story home, a small boat for Sunday fishing, a savings account, a life built on routines, stability, trust. Weekends came and went like clockwork. Coffee on the porch, lawn mound, laughter over takeout. It wasn't flashy, but it was solid. It was his. Then came the storm. The pandemic hit like a tidal wave. Clients vanished, orders evaporated, lockdown after lockdown choked the business. 3 months later it folded. Mark tried to hold the pieces together. He burned through savings, maxed out credit cards, told himself it would turn around. It didn't, and then the blow he didn't see coming. His wife of 27 years set him down, quietly, and said she couldn't do it anymore. No yelling, no betrayal, just goodbye. Mark packed 2 suitcases and an old laptop, left behind the house, the boat, the dogs, the life. No job, no home, no plan, just silence, and time to grieve, time to wonder who he was without the things that once defined him, time to sit in the wreckage and decide whether this was the end, or something else. For 6 months, Mark floats, not forward, not backward, just suspended. He picks up odd jobs, DoorDash deliveries, a few freelance gigs here and there. He sends cold emails, waits, refreshes, hears nothing. Some mornings, he sets the alarm for not because he has anywhere to be, but just to prove to himself he still can. He walks in circles around his apartment, counts steps, counts days, anything to stop counting regrets. Then he buys a cheap notebook, nothing fancy, just lined paper and a pen that skips. He begins to write, not for anyone else, just for himself. Scattered thoughts, half-formed ideas, fear mostly, pages filled with fear. But one night, something shifts. It's past midnight, the city is quiet, and Mark, in the stillness, writes a single sentence. I don't want to rebuild the same life. I want to rebuild a better one. He stares at it for a long time, reads it again and again, because something about it feels different, like a match finally striking after 1,000 failed sparks. That night, a question begins to form slowly, but clearly. What have I always wanted to do, but never dared? Not what's practical, not what's safe, not what other people expect, but what he wants, what the boy in him dreamed of before the mortgage, before the business, before the fall. And for the first time in months, Mark doesn't feel lost. He feels curious. Mark had always loved nature photography, long before the business plans, the mortgage payments, before being practical took over. He'd lose himself in forests, chasing light through trees, snapping photos no one ever saw. But life got louder, deadlines, meetings, bills, and somewhere along the way, he packed that dream away in a box labeled Somnupe. Now, with nothing left to lose, he digs through a closet and finds his old Nikon, dusty, forgotten, like a part of himself waiting to be remembered. He starts walking through trails, parks, forgotten corners of nature. No goals, no followers, just him, the camera, and the quiet. He begins posting the photos online. No hashtags, no expectations, just honesty. And slowly, something happens. A few people notice, then a few more. He opens an Etsy shop, sells a few prints, enough to cover groceries, maybe rent. But that's not the point. He starts a blog, calls it Starting Over Late. Not about success, but about fear, loss, rediscovery. He writes like he's talking to an old friend, raw, honest, real. The blog goes viral, not in numbers, but in meaning. Strangers write in, people who thought they were too old to begin again. Then, one email changes everything. A nonprofit for veterans sees his work. They're launching a program for PTSD recovery and ask if he'd consider teaching photography. Mark says yes, not because he feels ready, but because something inside him is. And so, piece by piece, step by quiet step, he begins to feel humaning, but successful, rich, but rooted. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. Today, Mark lives in a modest cabin near the mountains. No traffic noise, no inbox overload, just the rustle of trees, the crunch of gravel under boots, and the quiet rhythm of a life reclaimed. He hikes, he teaches, he writes in the mornings with the warm mug in hand. He photographs in golden hour light, capturing moments most people rush past. He doesn't chase numbers anymore, not likes, not followers, not paychecks. He chases meaning, presence, stillness. Mark didn't rebuild his old life. He let it go and built something new, something simpler, something real. And that's the point. Because sometimes life has to break you, strip you bare, leave you standing in the ashes so you can finally see the parts of yourself you buried beneath expectations, routines, and fear. We spend so much time trying to get back to who we were, but maybe the real journey is forward, into the unknown, into the version of you that was waiting, quietly, patiently, to be chosen. You're never too old to start over. You're never too broken to begin again. And it's never too late to find what sets your soul on fire.